Hi and welcome to this week's Outlook. This is Kim speaking on Tuesday, the 14th of February. Before I get on and look at the technicals, let's just run through the fundamentals. And before I do that, let's just remind you that there's not much time now if you're wanting to come along on Sunday, the 26th of February to book your place. So if you're wanting to come along and see us on the 26th, day trading day is the 26th of February. So I'll put the details on the bottom email anyway. Okay, now fundamentals this week. We have got some key numbers coming out, or I say key number. We have got key numbers coming out and some speakers speaking. So I expect some volatility as we move through. Yesterday was particularly quiet. No news whatsoever. Today we've already seen inflation data coming out in the UK, which disappointed fractionally, although is still running probably not too far behind the curve. Aside of that, this afternoon we got the US PPI, Producer Price Index, coming out later on. That can create a bit of volatility. And then we got at 3 p.m. we got Fed Chair Yellen even, bless, speaking in front or addressing the semi-annual monetary policy report. That's for the Senate Banking Committee. Now she's speaking again tomorrow. I expect any sort of majority of the volatilities come out today if there's going to be anything about her speech. Although generally they continue to say what they've already said, but she will expect to be said. But it depends really on the questions. But she's also testifying again tomorrow at the same time, so 3 p.m. But tomorrow morning we've got important data for the UK, jobs report coming out at 9:30, employment report. In particular, having seen inflation data coming out, people will be watching carefully at the average earnings index. That'll be the key data to expectation to come out there. Expecting to come out at about 2.8%. Is that? I mean, it was a positive increase over the past two reports. It may come in line this time, or if it disappoints, well, I expect some volatility around there anyway. Okay, moving through the day, and really there's a plethora of data coming out at 1:30, but the most important one of those is the US CPI number. So that's their inflation number coming out, due out at 1:30, but to muddy the waters, they've also got retail sales coming out at the same time. And you really want to muddy the water and you're looking at Canadian dollar, they've also got manufacturing sales, although really the main mover there is the inflation data, and then the retail sales are lesser. As I've already mentioned, on Wednesday, Fed Chair Yellen is speaking at 3 p.m. Crude oil inventories is ever 330. And then we've got a speaker later on in the day at 5:45, maybe get a volatility around that area. But really then moving on to Thursday, if you're trading the Aussie, you've got the employment data coming out at 12:30, often good for some good volatility around that report. And leading in from there, we've got lesser details. At 12:30, we've got ECB monetary policy meeting accounts. Don't tend to move the markets too much because Draghi has already told everyone what's in there. And then 1:30, a bit of a mix of low-key data coming in on the Thursday. Building permits, fab manufacturing may get some slight volatility, but not expecting much. Leading into Friday with retail sales from the UK at 9:30. Again, that may give some volatility. Not massive in the past, but anything major surprises obviously tend to give us a bigger kicker. So let's get on and look at the technicals. Phew. And I'm starting as ever with the euro dollar. And last week we saw this sell-off week, and it's really this week hasn't started particularly great at the moment. Although we're seeing a bit of support off that rolling 50. And when I say rolling 50, it seems to be rolling away from price a little bit there. And I was wondering this morning whether it continued to roll over, but at the moment it's providing some support. Could be that we move up towards the weekly pivot. Here's so many comments coming out, and so as soon as you start hearing everyone's getting a bit bearish on the euro, is the time that you know that at some point there's going to be a bit of a short squeeze. So if it continues in that vein, be wary of sudden and big moves to the upside on the euro. Anyway, on the looking at the upside, we have got the weekly pivot yet to be touched above. It may just want to come up there. I was hoping it was going to do it yesterday, didn't make it, but maybe we could in the next couple of days. Once that's out of the way, then it really depends on the reaction to the pivot. If it starts moving through, I'd be a tad more bullish. As I say, I'm taking a bit more of a contrarian view there, and just watching. I would be watching the stops being taken. But my preference in terms of the pattern from the dailies recently would be to the downside. So if it reacts against it, it may even fall short of the weekly pivot, and if it reacts, I'd rather be on the short side, particularly as I said already, this 50s move rolling over. Moving towards the pound dollar, and it really is. I mentioned last week about these currencies being on a bit of a knife edge, where the euro is really not too different either, and certainly the pound. You look at this daily point from a daily point of view. Oops, sorry, going down to a 5-minute chart. You don't really want that. Looking at the weekly, well, you can see how consolidated we are around this weekly 21. If at some point it could break and close above there, well, then I would, on the weekly, from a weekly point of view, I'd be a lot more bullish back towards the 1-3 area and maybe above. But at the moment, it's really, as I say, sitting here, not really giving us too much of a clue one way or the other. This morning CPI data disappointed, seeing a little bit more of a bounce now that could work its way through this morning a little bit more. And who knows, he may end up a bit more positive afternoon. But for me to really be positive, I'd like to see it sort of as a short-term sort of wedge sort of pattern that runs across these highs here, the current candle really, somewhere in that region. If it starts pushing up over there, I'd be more happy and be looking for the prior highs there. And maybe the monthly R1. It's been a while since it's pushed up that way. It's, to me, it's structuring itself, even though if it sells and breaks that 50, then monthly pivot, I become bearish. But I do wonder if it will get a bit more of a leg up. Dollar yen. Dollar yen finally got down. I've been talking about it for, it seems, weeks, and it finally did it, and it's had a bounce off the weekly 21 there. At the moment, it's giving it a bit back. It's dragging back off its move. Not quite up to the monthly pivot yet. It's not a great distance to get up there. If it could hit that, it'd be interesting to see the reaction. A break above it and above that 50, and then I start becoming a bit more bullish on the for a bigger move up towards the prior highs. There would be an obvious sort of level, but yeah, the weekly pivot still toying with it, pulling it, dragging it down at the moment, it seems. And if it starts breaking that level, then I'm going to get bearish towards the monthly S1. Aussie dollar. Aussie, as I keep on saying, the strongest of all. The jobs report will probably show tomorrow morning how strong it is. If we see some further upside, it could run. I've left this on for some time. Obviously, this weekly pattern and the shape here that's sort of running it through. We had sell orders all of the time previously as it was running into that region, particularly towards the top part of there with lots of spikes over shadows. If it can start closing up a bit more bullish, and it did a couple of weeks ago, last week wasn't particularly the most bullish, but if it can still push on there, well, perhaps we can effectively break that trend that's sitting there and move up towards the 78 and beyond, towards the 80. Looking at the daily point of view, you can see a neat little wedge there, and as I say, could be pushing up. Short-term sort of targets may be that daily R1, monthly R1. Of course, the jobs, if they come out bad, would spoil that completely. Now, it's still on. I've been looking at the weekly view of the Canadian dollar, expecting more downside here. As I said, it came out of that sort of rising channel there. Haven't really seen the depth of that channel reached yet. Still potential for that to happen. we're already selling off, and I'll just flick across to oil, and you'll see oil's been pushing around these levels. If you look on a daily, it's just sitting underneath that 54. If it can push up a little bit, sort of half a dollar or so, I think there's a chance that we could see it running back towards $60. If the US dollar starts weakening a bit, I'm sure that will be part catalyst as well. But for the Canadian dollar, what that means is, well, strength, and we're seeing it moving down accordingly against the US dollar. Looking at the dailies, it's broken its short-term trend that was sitting there, this pullback. Ticked all the boxes, monthly pivot, weekly pivot. So if it can continue in this mode, it may yet be on for some sort of more significant lows towards, there's some lows back here, and there's the monthly S1 below us as well. So there's quite some targets below there to be had. Okay, that's it for me. As I said, the fundamentals all done. Technicals overall, I have a partial sort of bearish view of the dollar at the moment. And I'm wary of it. There's a bit mixed on a couple of the currencies, but overall, I'm not too sure if this dollar index is going to roll back and roll over again. Okay, that's it for me. I'll catch you next week. Bye for now.